how are you? And welcome to Markets Today. It's Friday. We are so excited to be here at Markets Today. It's the day where we give you the culmination of activities that have happened over the week, and we also just break down what are the key conversations that have been happening on Markets Today and what do they mean for you. We love Fridays. Fridays is an amazing day. It's sunny in Nairobi, the capital of Kenya. We want to hear your views. What are you watching? What has been your exciting investment move for the day? What are you thinking about for the next week? And more importantly, the month is coming almost to a near end. I hope you have been making some investment moves and leveraging on some of the information that we have been sharing here. Before we get into the Ask Mbithe segment, which is scheduled for later on in the show, I want to take us into what was happening on the NSE yesterday. We did see a huge jump in terms of turnover. We will have our graphics coming up shortly. And then one of you had asked us about Kenya Re. So we are here and we are listening. We'll give you an overview of Kenya Re, some of the recent numbers and our views on whether it makes sense at the current price point. Then after that, you know, we like talking to the youth. We have someone in our studio today. I will introduce him, Kagema, later on in the show, just to understand where is he at and what are some of the questions. We have had Kagema on our show before. If you remember, he told us that he would be starting to make and sell peanut butter. So it would also be a good time for us to revisit that conversation and see where he's at. But before we get into all of that lined up for you today, let's take a look at what was happening on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. A bit of upward movement on the NSE All Share, which was up 0.08 percentage points to close the day at 139.71. The key mover for this particular index was Safaricom, which was trading at about 30 shillings to 30.05 per share. NSE 20 share index, slight movement downwards. NSE 25 share index, slight movement upwards. Let's take a look at what was happening on the next chart in terms of turnover. We have equity turnover doubled on the day. It seems like for the last 2 weeks, Thursday is becoming the most important day on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. As you can see, we have been tracking the NSE equity turnover from the beginning of the month to date. And yesterday, we did see turnover more than double from 607 million, which is what was traded on Wednesday, to close the day at 1.4 billion. Anytime you get over the 1 billion mark, then you know it's a huge trade that's going through the market, and it's largely driven by the shareholders. By the foreign shareholders. The foreign shareholders yesterday were net sellers. They were sellers of 92% of the market, and they bought 86% of the market. When the foreigners then begin to turn to be net sellers, we typically look at this as a trigger point for continued exits in the market, which signals to you that there could be a buying opportunity, more so on price weakness in subsequent weeks. 1.4 billion is the number that we saw yesterday, and this was largely driven by a huge trade that went through on Equity Bank, and equity was trading at the 36 shilling mark, 35.5 shilling mark. Let's take a look at who are the key drivers in terms of volume over the day. Equity Group, a huge trade that went through yesterday. 28.38 million shares were traded. The last time that we have seen a huge trade on the NSE was the previous week, again on Thursday. 115 million shares were traded in Safaricom. Yesterday, equity was the top mover with 28.38 million shares traded. Foreigners on both sides. And for us at Markets Today, we keep asking ourselves, or rather I ask myself, and even I ask myself as Ask Mbithe, what is the foreigners? What are they seeing in the market that you and I are not seeing? 28 million shares is a huge number for Equity Bank. It's more than 3 times what it trades on average, because typically for equity and for KCB, normal volumes have been 2 million, 1 million. 28 million is almost 10 times what this particular stock trades. Foreigners on both sides. Last week, Safaricom, foreigners on both sides. So I ask myself, what is it that we are not paying attention to? Equity Bank's story is a very interesting story. Last week, we did have the privilege of sitting with the Chief Executive Officer, Dr. James Mwangi. He has been at the helm for over 35 years. The company has been running and operating in Kenya for that long. As he has been in the helm, he's actually moved this company from a small building society into a company that does not operate without the leveraging of technology. He has a Pan-African vision for this company, currently operating in 6 countries with operations in 7 if you calculate Ethiopia, or rather include Ethiopia as part of their representative offices. This bank has customers who are 14 million in number, and it has been using technology to enhance its financial inclusion agenda and to just move this from Kenya into other countries. In terms of efficiencies, Equity has been one of the most efficient banks given the scale that it's operating it and the size as well. When we did see it come to 28 shillings per share, we flagged it to you here on Markets Today, and I was able to tell you, look at it at 28. Now it's come at 35. There's still a bit of value, especially for the long term, and certainly there are people out there who are seeing it. Question is, will you be too late to this particular party, or will you continue consuming? I think the unfortunate part that we are seeing is it is the foreigners who are trading the stocks that are listed on the NSE, but it's you and I, in other words, the locals, who are providing the profitability for these companies. This narrative absolutely has to change, and at least that's what we're trying to do by demystifying and helping you understand the investment case for these different counters. Safaricom, another huge trade, 10.5 million shares traded, again by the foreigners. KCB, 1 million shares traded. APSA, we saw a huge trade go through APSA. That was 1.035 million shares that were traded. And Cooperative Bank, 922,000. So some surprise and interesting movement there for APSA and the Cooperative Bank. Who are the top gainers and losers for the day? That's the next slide that we have coming up there. In terms of the top gainers for the day, Sanlam Kenya gained 9.17 percentage points to close the day at 13.1. We had a rush of small caps gaining negligibly over the day on very thin volumes. Unga Group up 6.5% to 32 shillings. Sasini up 5.26% to 20 shillings. Samia Africa up 3 percentage points to 4 shillings. And Total Kenya up 3.2 to 24.2. Total Kenya, second day in a row that we've actually seen it make the top gainers list. Who were the top losers on the day? The top losers chart will be coming up shortly from our graphics team, so we can see who the top losers were in as far as price is concerned. Again, a bit of activity for the small cap companies. That's the small capitalized companies by market capitalization. Express Kenya down 10 percentage points to 4.3. East African Cables is now at 1.62 shillings per share. Cabasid, we've been seeing a bit of high net worth movement on this particular counter. It's now down 3.8 shillings to 8.1 shillings per share. The Nairobi Securities Exchange is at 18.18, and Umeme is down 3 percentage points to 7.12. Today's Friday, it's the last day of trading, and we're seeing a bit of activity. We don't think it will get to the levels that we saw yesterday. Yesterday, levels doubled to 1.44 billion shillings worth of turnover. Today, we might not see that, and it's almost getting towards the tail end of the market close. That's pretty much what we have for you as far as the NSE is concerned. We take a break. When we come back, we will be looking at the case for Kenya Re and trying to understand what business does this company do and how does it sit in for you and should you invest in it. Secondly, we'll also give you a recap of some of the interesting conversations that we had here on Markets Today and what we were able to glean from an investment perspective. Then we will take a break, and once we come back, we are joined by Kagema, our very own peanut butter maker, to see how he's doing in as far as selling and making of peanut butter, but more importantly, has he gotten a chance to get into stocks, and if not, what is holding him back and what can he do? As always, we want to hear your voice. It's a Friday. If nothing else, say hello to us. That's 20146. If not, you can reach out to me. That's Mbithe Mwema on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. If not, Metropole TV on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on all the social media platforms. We want to hear what you're thinking. Did you make any investments? Are these numbers we are showing you even changing the way you're doing your life? when Equity Bank trades 28 million shares and the counter is trading at 35 to 36 shillings per share, when you say you can't invest, did you know that you only need to invest a minimum of 100 shares? That's 3,600. Is that something that you're unable to do before the month ends? What are you going to do in terms of turning the knowledge that we are sharing with you into an action point? We want to hear your thoughts, where you're watching us from. We take a short break. When we come back, we will be looking at Kenya Re. See you after the break.